Hey, what's up, everybody? This is MileSplit Live. I'm here with Travis Miller, Brian Dybel. I am Corey Mall. In the back, we have Parker Navarro, who handles social media for MileSplit. Guys, it was an incredible weekend, obviously.
It was all right.
Some stuff happened.
Yeah, I finally feel like cross country is really going.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, some of the most remarkable things happened last week. But you look at the schedule this week, it is unbelievably packed. Desert Hills, McQuaid, FL Runners, Paul Short, Nike Portland, Greater Louisville, Cowboy Jamboree, Roy Griak, which we're going to be at, Nike
Yep.
South, and McNeil. I mean, are you expecting even greater heights this weekend, obviously?
Yeah, I think especially from ranked matchups compared to some of these weeks, I think we're going to see more head-to-head battles, individuals, especially teams, and what we've been seeing so far. So I think last week finally got our feet wet. People are like, all right, like I'm really into this cross-country stuff now, and this week, we're really going to see it rolling.
The rust is gone. It's out. Everybody's done with the rust.
It's time to start running fast.
For sure. We have Texas MileSplit editor Will Grundy with us. At Texas, he has a big weekend in store as well. McNeil Invitational, traditionally one of the fastest meets in Texas, is going down at Round Rock. And we also got Nike South Invitational over there, I believe, at the Woodlands. So, Will, you got a huge weekend. What's in store for you to come?
Well, all that's going to depend on the last 3 weeks of our season. How it's dependent, should I say, on the weather. Mother Nature has kind of been giving us a inauspicious last couple of weeks, I'll say. But if it holds up, then like you said, we have McNeil and we have Nike South going on, which both of them should produce some fast times and some of those head-to-head matchups that you all just got through discussing.
So last year, McNeil was canceled due to weather. How much did that change things last year? And if that does happen again, what do you expect to happen this time around?
Well, last year that meant a lot of teams didn't race. Some did head over to the Woodlands, to Nike South, which one of those teams was Flower Mound. And I think that kind of helped them because, as you know, Flower Mound had a little hiccup at the end of the year with Alex Mayer going down. But they ran together at the NXR South course, which after a bad state meet, or I'm not going to say bad, a less than desired outcome at state meet, they ended up qualifying for NXN that way. So I think that helped them last year, and they're going back this year. This week they're taking things lightly. They'll make a decision as far as tomorrow because the weather looks like it may be the same kind of thing this year. So they'll make a decision early to give teams an ability to kind of make provisions to their season, maybe to get another meet like going back to Nike South.
What are your expectations for these two meets? Obviously, McNeil runs fast. Nike South traditionally brings great teams. I mean, is one more sort of team heavy at Nike South, and McNeil's going to find a lot of individual talent there? I mean, what are some of the separations or the comparisons of the two?
Oh, well, right now I think a lot of teams are trying to go back to McNeil because not being able to run there last year, teams had kids from varsity step up or they're stepping up this year. And then the state is real saturated with very talented freshmen and sophomore. So coaches are trying to get their kids an experience at the state meet course. And then with that, you just have some of the top girls and guys that are going to be racing there. On the girls, you have, of course, London Colbert. She's coming fresh off that 17:06. And she'll be going head-to-head with Adaway Vaughn, Ashlyn Hilliard, Helena Rahman, and Allison Wilson, who just ran well out at Woodbridge. But then on the boys' side, we have kind of an anomaly of a race that we're looking for. Cruz Gomez has been running very well. Hadn't quite hit a 5K in a while. So we really want to see where he's at after that 14:18. Graydon Morris hit one race with a 15, I believe, and he's been just training since then, eyeing this return. Carter Cheeseman, who was supposed to run last week at Chili Pepper, decided not to. He will be at McNeil if it goes down. And then half two night, Anthony Monte from Austin Vandegrift. It'll be a real individual race for the most part.
Who do you think has the most to gain at one of these meets? I mean, you mentioned Adaway Vaughn, who's, I believe, has run 17:19. She's just behind London Colbert, has had a pretty good start so far to her season. But in a lot of ways, it seemed like she's a little bit under the radar in terms of national exposure. In Texas, she's very talented. But, you look at her, maybe Carter Cheeseman, who didn't race last week, as you said. I mean, who has the most to gain at one of these meets?
Well, for their season, everyone has something to gain because really we haven't been running the last 3 weeks because of the weather, like I said. So getting a true test for everyone before the championship season begins, heading into the postseason. This is kind of their opportunity. London Cobra, this will just be her, depending on how you look at it, third race of the season. Her opening at South Lake Carroll kind of was just a hodgepodge through the mud. So it wasn't really like she tested herself like she expected. So if those girls can just go out and run with London and just see what sticks, I think is a benefit for all of them. Carter Cheeseman and Graydon and Cruz, that whole group are just an elite level group of guys that get together and have the opportunity to race and just run fast, just to see where things go right now. While there's nothing on the line for both guys and girls, I think is their opportunity to kind of see what they can do.
Well, Cruz and Gray are going to compete against each other, same class this year, right? So first chance to see like what he actually has against Graydon, maybe too, right?
Right. Those two guys are going to go head to head for the 5A state championships, and you have to remember Michael Abeta. He will be at the Desert Twilight. Actually, you guys talk about later. But that group is going to be it's going to create quite a special 5A race.
So on the team front, then we've seen that Flower Mound has been incredibly impressive over the first few weeks of the season, both the boys and the girls team. But last week we learned that Keller's girls aren't done yet either. They won Chili Pepper in Arkansas. So, on the team front, do we have some teams that are trying to step up and insert themselves? I mean, we didn't talk about South Lake Carroll either, but if they're going to be at either at these meets.
South Lake Carroll will be at South McNeil. They will be there. They had a split squad the last couple of weeks, going out to Woodbridge and one group going to Corpus Christi last week. So I think a lot of people have counted South Lake Carroll guys and girls out, as well as both the Woodlands boys and girls out. And I think people are really starting to see that, they had a transition, but they are very well coached, and those teams aren't going to be looking to take a year off. They're going to make them work, the rest of the state work for what they want.
In your eyes, what's the biggest storyline for you in Texas moving forward after this weekend?
After this weekend, we're really going to find out how good Flower Mound and the Woodlands are. They're going head-to-head at Nike South. With that race, Jared Kirk will be running. Alex Mayer will be running. Mr. Ryan Shoppy, which I don't think a lot of people know who he is, but he is the 6'8", 3,200-meter champion, as well as the number one guy in the state of Texas right now. So he's going to go ahead with those guys and the Woodlands guys. Then we'll see team-wise what they're like as well. Then at McNeil, we'll see the guys and the girls clash. Graydon Morris, we'll see where he's at. We'll see if Cruz is really looking as good as we really think he is. Carter Cheeseman, we'll see what he has. So that we'll find out this week if Mother Nature allows us really how good the state of Texas is.
Well, Will, best of luck to finding great weather over this weekend. Best of luck to coverage. We'll surely talk to you soon. Thank you so much for being on our show, okay?
Awesome. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys, so we're all pretty familiar with Texas running. This is a big weekend for all these teams. In your guys' eyes, do you have any thoughts on what you think is going to be pretty important for some of these teams this weekend?
I mean, it's always a big weekend. You circle it on a calendar every year. It's when, like Will already laid out, you get to see both the NXR regional course and the state course. And I think it's always tough, though, because you have half the state going half the ways. It depends on where they want to get their preview at this year. Mm-hmm. I think McNeil, though, always runs very fast. There's a little suspicion sometimes, but it always runs very quick and very fast. And I think some of those kids, especially who aren't going to make it to NXN or to NX, to the national level, it's really good for them in the state to get a view of that course. And especially with some teams with some young runners, I think that's a really good race. Coaches want to look at to mark and circle on their calendar if they can make it to the state meet with a young squad.
Yeah, I think for McNeil, a lot of times, like you said, it depends more on the makeup of your team. We've seen a number of years where the more experienced programs, when they have more junior, senior heavy teams on a given year, just will skip it. They'll rest and prepare for other meets because they've seen the course. They've been there and done that enough times. They don't need to. But when you have a younger squad, you want to give them a chance to run the state course before you actually get to the state meet, where it's as important as it is. So this year, we'll see. I think some of the stronger teams may not have to worry about that. So it's always a good matchup in Texas, though. They don't get too many meets like this. This is the last big weekend pretty much until the state meet. It's all regionals and district qualifiers from here on out. So this is the last chance for Texas athletes to really shine before we get to the postseason.
Yeah, it should be a fantastic weekend. Moving forward to our Big Five, the 5 best storylines from this past weekend worth of action. A lot to get forward to. A lot to look forward to, obviously. One in particular obviously happened in New York, but we're going to start with our number 5 storyline. It happened in Georgia at Wingfoot XC Classic. Somehow, this meet continually produces the most electric finishes in the country. I mean, the last 2 years now have been photo finishes. This year, Kyle Harkabis leaned across from Nick Nyman, who made a couple moves in the last 200 meters to win. So, in your guys' eyes, you saw this race kind of boil down in the last 2 minutes. What is it about this race that's kind of producing some of this stuff?
For me, actually, going through the girls' race was actually more interesting. And looking at the Marietta team in Georgia, a program we've heard about in the past couple of years on the boys' side, but I hadn't really expected them to race as well as they did. I mean, their number 1 runner, Ellie Hall, was 2nd overall here. Their 1-5 spread is a little much, about 70, 80 seconds, which is a lot if you're going to go to a regional race. But for them, their top 3 are all upperclassmen. Their speed ratings were really strong in the Southeast region, not typically known for super strong teams on the girls' side. I think Marietta is making the case that they're a top 3 to 5 program right now, easily, in the Southeast region. I was really impressed with how they ran. Their top 3 are really solid. Now, if their 4 or 5 can just improve a little bit, I think this Marietta program has a legitimate chance to really come out of nowhere and shock some of these other teams who hadn't been looking at them as contenders when we look at the regional. So for me, looking at certainly that boys race had one of the most exciting finish individually, but I just didn't see Marietta coming out running like they did, which is
and
really cool.
Georgia gets knocked, I think, at the regional level too for having teams that can compete. So to have one that might be able to do that maybe says a lot too. Mm-hmm. Do you think they can when they go to NXR Southeast potentially to compete?
Yeah, I really do. When you look at the Southeast, they just don't have the depth that some of these other regions do. And this year on the girls' side, not as strong maybe some of the Virginia programs, which historically, Blacksburg has, dominated that region, but got some strong Florida teams. I think Marietta, when you look at this team, there's no one who is a dominant lock right now on the girls. The boys is a whole different matter, but on the girls' side, there's a lot of teams that think they have a chance. And this Marietta, squad running how they did, I think I immediately jump up into that conversation, and this is going to make it a whole lot more interesting now.
Yeah, for sure.
Put some more pressure on those other teams too.
Yeah, Pinecrest was supposed to be one of the top teams. They returned so much at the beginning of the year, but they didn't. One of the girls didn't come out for their squad that was supposed to be their 3, so they've been sort of down. I think don't sleep on Cardinal Gibbons because I think they'll get better. The same thing with Blacksburg. Those 2 teams always find a way. But
they're the teams with history.
Yeah. I mean, Marietta, I think it's great to see a team like this, though, because, the more competition you have, the more depth at that regional level, the better the meet is and the value of it. So that's pretty cool, too. What, in your eyes, what about you, Brian?
Looking at it, I think you get to see Kyle Harkabis taking a win there. I think it's a win that he had to obviously fight for at the end, and that shows his grit and his determination. The time to me wasn't all that impressive, though, to be honest. Looking at it, it's only 14th from that meet over the couple-year history that it's had. Last year when Jacob McLeod and Sam Bowers dropped below sub-15, that was really impressive. They did the same thing on the same course. So it's interesting to me, Kyle Harkabis, how much did he have left in the tank maybe? It looked like, he put in a hard kick there. Yeah, clearly. He pushed there, and I think he was just a little off, but so it's what's he going to do once he gets in a bigger race where he's pushed a little harder, and that's nothing against Nick, and I think Nick ran a great race as well.
I thought the same thing.
But it looks like he had a little more to go.
I thought Kyle had a lot more to give at Wingfoot, but you actually look at the history of these 2 kids, and they have a history together. Yeah. Last year at the ASICS Invitational, they both went under 15 for the first time in their careers, and they finished back-to-back in that ASICS Invitational. Harkabis got the lean over Nyman, so I mean, a little bit of that, mental seesawing. They have history. Maybe Harkabis knew Nyman was going to be here in this race and kind of played it tactically because he's the faster guy overall. He could have – I feel like he could have just pushed this. Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, Nyman really put it to him in those last seconds, and Harkabis had to fight for all he had. He had that 152 800 speed. Obviously, that's going to help a lot. So that was a big matchup, number 5 storyline for us. Moving forward to number 4, obviously a ton of individual efforts happened nationwide. In your guys' eyes, was who do you think had one of the better performances in your opinion?
Take away, Brian.
I got Grant Gardner. One of the big things is it's always easy when I get to get out there in the field and get to see people perform at meets. It's kind of a little easier to swing that way. But there was something about Grant Gardner this year that I just haven't seen from him. Sometimes you see him in interviews personally, and I just thought, just Grant Gardner, we'll see how he does. He didn't have this confidence. Something about him when I talked to him this year was I'm confident, I'm ready, I'm here, I'm going to run fast, I'm going to do well. And his times showed that. What he was able to drop this weekend, at that meet, 15:06. I heard it was a course record, 191 speed rating. Absolutely impressive and dominant performance. And he got to get out of Utah and show it against some of the best competition. We kind of talked about it, Josh Ornelas and I. Josh is the Utah webmaster. We talked about it a little bit. And Utah individually doesn't have as much of the individual strength on the boys' side as we've seen in years past with guys like Casey Klinger, Ryan Raff, Grant Gardner being one of those guys in the mixed past few years. And Grant has really started to step it up and prove Utah's still on the map, and I'm still here to say, let's party.
Yeah.
Let's get to the national
party.
I'm partying.
Yeah. Plot twist here. I'm going with Sydney Massarelli out of Connecticut.
All right, I see
Someone
you.
who I don't think
see
anyone has heard about on the national level.
I see you.
She started doing track this outdoor season. She's a sophomore this year, but her freshman track season, running for the first time, she came away with a 2:13 PR in the 800, sub 5 in the mile, ran 10:49 for the full 2 mile nationals. This is the first cross country race of her life as a sophomore, and she goes 17:04. That's the 5th fastest 5K in the entire country. It moves her ahead of Tierney Wolfgram for the number 1 sophomore in the country. 149 speed rating, top 10 speed rating on the season. So by every metric, she's all of a sudden put together one of the top 10 performances of the year in her first race in cross country.
Yeah.
What is happening right now?
It's great. Obviously to base on one race though, are you a little concerned? We're not concerned, but are a little curious where it might go, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think the first race out of everything. I think just a wild way for her to jump onto the cross country scene out of nowhere. There was a note in that Bill said the speed ratings are highly uncertain. At this race for sure, but still to go nearly break 17 in your first time running cross ever is an incredible performance for her, and I'm really excited to see this, with the history of the Northeast girls, individuals especially have the national level, and for her just to be a sophomore, 2 more years left after this, I'm really excited to see how she progresses this cross-country season.
She crushed everybody.
I agree.
Minutes too. Holy cow, just the results. Wow.
Which to me is more impressive because that means she didn't let off the gas, especially in your first cross-country race. If you're running really far in front of people, I think it's more intuitive to kind of ease up. You don't really know what's happening, how to pace yourself, but she really went out firing. It didn't matter. She probably no idea at any point how far back anyone was, and she just kept going and run 17 flat.
Not to be rude, run dumb. You run stupid and you just
go.
Have fun and go. I mean, not so much run dumb, have fun. That's what I used to call just running dumb. I'm just out here having a good time. I used to run dumb sometimes. You know what happens.
Fair enough. # run dumb by Brian Dywell. I'm going to go with Cameron Fisher. He's won 2 big meets right off the bat now with South Lake Carroll Invitational and now Chili Pepper. Now Carter Cheeseman wasn't there, which takes away a little bit from the value of the competition. But and he ran a little bit slower than last year too. But for me, it's the win and how he did it. Obviously, I think there was a little bit of conditional adjustments. I mean, there might have been a little bit of mud or rain or whatever, but he won. He beat Half Tonight, and for me. I think Cameron's got a lot on the line. We've talked about him before, but you also look at, how people sort of see him. I know Parker, put up an Instagram photo of who he got, Carter or Cameron Fisher, before this race. And everybody was all about Carter. And Cameron just goes out there and fires away. And I think, honestly, if Carter would have been there, I think Cameron would have had his number too, because I just think he's so confident at this point. So I think Cameron's building up his confidence level. And the moment he goes to some of these bigger meets, I think he's got a lot to prove. So I'm going to give my nod to Cameron Fisher. I think he's going up.
One thing about him, too, is I think he's still in that building phase of training. He sent the training blog to us over the summer and into the beginning of September, and a lot of it was still he's kind of lower in mileage than most guys, but a lot of he's I'm still building, I'm still working, I'm still getting back to getting in shape, and I think that could be a good thing, especially for a guy like him. He ran both national meets last year. He has huge upside potential to go back to either one of those, and I'm sure he's hungry to. As we talked about a little bit, he was not as high of a finish as he'd like. So I think he's really hungry this year to get back to those national meets and continue to train deeper into the season than last year.
Moving on to number 3 storyline, American Fork boys, which are rising up in sort of what we think of them. Obviously, they're number 7 in the MileSplit 50. Recently released team rankings last week. They won the Nebo Invitational, which is right about the middle part of their season, heading into states October 17th in Utah. They could be the same American Fork team that we've seen in years past. So did we see something special out of American Fork this past weekend or no?
What I saw is that I'm worried about American Fork.
Okay.
Because Skyridge ran better in Bob Firman than what American Fork did in Nebo. And I think we've all have seen American Fork as the dominant force in Utah this season. But Skyridge had a phenomenal race that Bob Firman ran better than American Fork. So I look at American Fork as a team that definitely does not have that state or region on lock at this point. And Skyridge could potentially be the best team in the state. So I think I'm worried about American Fork after that.
Like being at Bob Firman, yes, Skyridge had a great race. I had no denying that. And numbers might say it, but one thing I heard from, again, talking to Josh Ornelas, MileSplit Utah webmaster, American Fork, they go to like one big meet throughout the whole season until they hit that state meet thing, and that's the BYU invite. The BYU invite, they won it like pretty easily. Then they go to the Nebo invite, which Josh has told me that course is extremely tough. It's a very tough course. And maybe speed ratings say one thing that Skyridge said better, but based on somebody who knows the course and the conditions, from Josh, that course is very tough. So that's one thing that their coach highlights is they hit the tougher courses throughout the year to make them prepared for the tougher courses and tougher matchups later on in the season. But one thing that I'd like to note from American Fork, their top 3 is super consistent all across the board. Mm-hmm. It's I want to say Carson Klinger,
Luke Grunvig, and Dalton Brems.
So those 3 have been consistent all throughout the season. But then you look after that, and they've kind of just been putting guys in wherever they can. And one thing, I look back at a preseason Q&A we did with Coach, and he said they have a very senior-heavy squad this year. And right now, their seniors, they're trying to plug and play and see who they can get and get the best race out of. And you can see it all through their results. They have not had a consistent top 7, but at the same time, it's almost been good. I feel like that inter-team battle that we kind of highlighted with Great Oak on day 4 is the same thing is happening here at American Fork. You get this inter-team battle where they're battling each other back and forth, trying to get on the team. And I think that once they can put it all together, I think we're going to see American Fork really explode and take off and be better than what Skyridge is.
Yeah, I agree too, because I think you look at that trio, and I mean they're not as good as Casey Klinger, Patrick Parker, or McKay Johns,
I don't think we'll ever see a trio
they're very
that
good. They're very good,
yeah,
and that's what you need. So if
definitely.
you have a ton of depth that can fit into the 4 and 5 and the 6 and the 7 ranks, I think you're good.
Well, the other thing I noticed too is that if you look back at sometimes they race 5K, sometimes they race 3 mile. If you look at their 5K team average from the first invite with again different guys, it was their 1 through 5 split was 1 minute and 4 seconds. The next time they ran the 5K, the next meet, the BYU Autumn Classic, it was 59 seconds through 1 through 5. The Nebo invite most recently, their 3 miles. 1 through 5 split was 39 seconds. Now, the upper guys could be slowing down a little bit, maybe helping pace a pack together, but that also helps for once you get in the race. It's like, okay, I can run with him now. Let's run with him in the bigger races. So it's about a mentality thing, and I think American Fork is doing the right thing. I think they're on the right track, and I'm not worried about them later on in the season.
So, Travis, do you think Skyridge can win a state title in Utah? Or are you just thinking at the regional level?
I'm not worried. The state is split up with their different classifications.
Okay.
There, American Fork.
You're just talking regional level. You feel like at that kind of level.
Yeah, I mean, even state. I mean, obviously, Skyridge won't race head to head, but I think if you look at a merge or comparing time to stuff, once we get there, Skyridge is right in that conversation for being as good as American Fork. And this is a young team. I know we're going to talk more about Bob Firman here, but since we're talking about Skyridge, this is only the 3rd year this team has been in existence. The school was built in 2016. This Skyridge team was actually the old Lehigh team. A lot of those programs, Ryan Raff going into his last years decided to stay with Lehigh, while most of the Lehigh team off of a stellar year in 2015 went to Skyridge with their coach. So this team's actually only been around for a handful of years. Rocky start, maybe considering how good that Lehigh program was. Skyridge took a few years to get their feet under them, but to come in just their 3rd year of existence, all of a sudden to be where they are now, I think we're just seeing the development of these athletes now. They have a couple years with the coach in this program. Now they're traveling to get more experience, bigger meets, racing national caliber teams, and this is a team I think that has a lot of potential. Seeing how they rose to the occasion against Great Oak and traveling and of course, under that kind of pressure of racing one of the top teams in the country, and they did not back down at all and weren't that far behind either. This wasn't a blowout that we saw between these two teams either. It was 30, 40 points, maybe somewhere around there. So I think seeing that is a really great indication that this team is going to be able to contend with Mountain Vista and American Fork at regionals.
I was just thinking the same. Like, if you look down the road to regionals, like to make it to that national meet, right now, it's a toss up in my eyes for who's going to be number one in that Southwest region. And for years, I feel like American Fork has been the dominant force. And there's no denying. I think they're going to get their stuff completely together. I'm not saying they don't have it together now, but it's going to be really together when I think it counts. But Skyridge, they definitely could make a run for it. I think they're, like you said, a young program that can put things together. But once you throw in some of those Colorado teams, it's going to be
hectic.
It's going to be crazy. That's going to be one heck of a race.
That's why I feel like experience at that level is unteachable. You can't teach that, right? You have a coach that's been there. You have guys that have been there. Even if they've been sitting on the sidelines, not in the top 7, I think that experience value is going to prove dividends down the road over a team that might be young. But we will see over time what happens. Going on to our number 2 storyline, Bob Firman Invitational was amazing. Out of Idaho, we had some great performances and a surprising result on the girls' side. On the guys' side, not so much. But let's start with Brian, because you obviously were there and you saw it all go down. So what were some of your thoughts from Bob Firman?
My initial thoughts when the girls' race went off was, oh my gosh, where's Great Oak? Like, I don't see Great Oak. I was filming, and they the bright red jerseys that they normally wear for most of the regular season with the G and the O. I didn't see those jerseys. I was like, oh my gosh, where are they? And then they passed by me and they had Wolfpack on the back. I was like, oh, and it's like funny because I knew who the athletes were. But anyways, once they got to, like, right there where the picture is, that's about the halfway point. And I saw all the Braves uniforms, and I was like, wow, like, what's going on? Like, there's a team absolutely crushing it right now. One thing about the girls' race is it did go out not as quite as fast as somebody like Tori Gaitan was expecting. She was their lead girl, obviously, and Ariana Griffiths was their second girl. So the race didn't quite go out as she expected, as fast. But I think that worked to Boise High's favor because they had a lot of girls being able to pack up and put themselves together. Like in that first picture we saw, it was a really good pack of them coming around halfway. And then it was tough after that. Like, after I was trying to count, and I heard kind of murmurs around the course because I'm trying to film the boys' race, which was up after that. And I heard murmurs around the course that Boise High might have beat them. Yeah. But one of the things is not to take anything away from Boise High. Great Oak did have a girl lose her shoe. Their lock 5th girl.
Yeah, come on.
Not lock 5th girl. I'm just saying some things. They had 5th girl. Their girl Fatima Cortez didn't quite have the race she expected. She was one of the girls at the Nike Elite Camp this year. So we'll see. I think they got to put some things together to, be one of the top teams that we've seen over the past years. They got to find some pieces.
I know Boise Senior was so confident going into that meet. Aaron Olswanger is their coach. He wanted them to be like kind of the unknown token team going to this race. They had 5 girls under 19.
Oh, they had a crazy race.
Maggie Libick.
Yeah, Maggie Libick had a great race.
She wasn't this
third
last year. She wasn't this kind of runner last year. So she's improved by at least a minute. You got her, Eve Jensen, and Rosina Matthew, I think her name is. I mean, they have a 3 that's really dangerous.
Yeah.
But I mean, it wasn't just Boise Senior and Great Oak. Bozeman and North Central both had good races as well.
Yeah, and I think it highlights at a national level when you're racing ranked teams and teams that are going to be in contention at the end of the year, anything that goes wrong, you're done.
You're in trouble.
These teams are most other races Great Oak is at, they win these meets, even if that happens. But when you're racing teams of this caliber, one little thing like that goes wrong. Even when you could say that if it happened to Tori or Ariana, that would have made a much bigger difference. Even when it happens to your 5th runner, it doesn't matter. Great Oak is one of the deepest teams in the country. But those small differences when you're talking about teams as good as Boise, North Central, and et cetera, I think it just makes it more exciting, on top of it. But it just shows you how good all these teams are, and doesn't matter how dominant you might be coming in, you still have to perform on race day. And to see Boise win the way they did, I think is awesome. And seeing their top 5 packed up as they were shows that this is also a team that's built to win later on in the season once you get into even deeper races, because they're not worried about that 1-5 gap as much as many of the other top 10, 15, 20 programs are right now. Their 1-5 look phenomenal. And those are the teams that are built to succeed at NXN.
I know one thing moving forward is they should have a lot of confidence moving forward into the season with what they were able to accomplish. And the thing is, too, I had probably the most fun interviewing them out of all the interviews I did that weekend or last weekend. It was just funny. They were just so happy, and it was just like so pure joy. And it was like so great to see, in our sport. We get it a lot, but and one thing I'd like to note about their team is they have a great a different amount. They had a couple freshmen I talked to. They had a couple seniors and juniors. So they have a well-rounded team, which could bode well for several years to come.
I will say, too, North Central at third, Bozeman in fourth for the girls' race is going to be a heck of a matchup at that Northwest region. Right now, we have North Central ranked. Bozeman started in our rankings. Bozeman looked like it was a team that had nothing back. I think they had 2 or 3 returners from last year. And look at them at this meet. That, to me, just says that the culture is working at Bozeman. It doesn't necessarily matter how many girls you return or how many studs you have. It's how can you get them up to the level that you've always been proven to race at. And I think Bozeman is right at that level right now. I mean, what is it, 9 points between North Central and Bozeman? So I think Bozeman had a really great race. Briefly on the guys' side, Great Oak ran really well. 38 points. You talked about Sky Ridge already.
Yep.
Anything we want to take away from this boys' race at Firman?
I think I kind of went into Sky Ridge for sure. With Great Oak, just I think as advertised again.
The depth.
I mean, the pressure for every race they go into now at this point to NXN, anything other than a win is a disappointment. That's just when you're ranked the way you are and the expectations are there. They need to win every race.
Yeah. Do you think they got out of Bob Firman what they wanted to get out of Bob Firman, which is to go there? And...
I know personally talking to the guys that they didn't. They came up to me like, oh man, we wish we would have won by more. They expected more from themselves. They held themselves to a higher standard at the meet. And I was like, guys, you want when they came up to me and said that, I was like, wait, you just didn't win? They're like, no, we won. I was like, what? They expected more from themselves, I think. Mm-hmm. I think they have great depth, and I think a couple guys didn't quite run the way they wanted to. I think they really want to bring that gap down as small as possible, and they did that a great job. They did a great job with some of their top 3. They got Tyler Tickner, Gabe Abbas, and Chris Verdugo stepped in and kind of closed that gap. Mm-hmm. But it's their 5-6, I think, that were a little we just wanted to do a little better.
Okay.
Yeah, nice wake-up call, if anything. For a team that, you need something to just remember that you can't be complacent.
Well, especially down the road at Clovis. They're going to face the best in California again on what's the eventual state course. So they'll have to have a big showing there with some of the best teams.
Well, hey, guys.
Hey, Corey.
Did you hear about this girl, Katelyn Tuohy?
Oh, my gosh.
Let's not talk about it anymore. Katelyn Tuohy, unbelievable. 16:06.87 at Ocean State Invitational this past weekend in Rhode Island. Unbelievable performance. I mean, we've talked about it in the office here, and I think it's been written about already on MileSplit, and FlowTrack has talked about it. So, what's going through your head right now? Is kind of what
It was the least surprising, impressive performance I've ever seen.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I couldn't say it better.
She ran the fastest 5K in high school history, the third best speed rating in history. So you're telling me one of the best distance runners in high school history did one of the best things in distance running history? So it's it's super impressive, but not surprising at all, just because of who she is. And then it was just, I couldn't help but laugh when I heard her interview, just how calmly she was like, yeah, I definitely could have gone 15. I just wasn't super familiar with the course. And you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, she must have gone out from the gun, just hammered the whole time. But she was kind of like, no, and if you look at the photos, that was not a flat course.
No.
That was kind of my thought too. Well, maybe it's super flat. There's one picture of her going up this gnarly hill. The angle is crazy. So this isn't a flat, easy course either. It's definitely mind-blowing, but not surprising in the least. And I just couldn't help but laugh watching
I think a question that did get asked by FlowTrack on their site was, could she be competitive right now at the collegiate level in cross country?
Yes. I think you look at it every year with incoming freshmen having an impact on NCAA cross right away, and now you look at someone at Tuohy's caliber, that's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, so Tuohy from here on out is going to the Shore Coaches Invitational in Jersey, which she's expected to have another all-out effort, right? Going for a big time, but from there, she's going to step off the gas a little bit and going to take her meet at Sunken Meadows as a hill workout. So I think she's got one big one coming up, but we might not see a ton of like massive every weekers like we maybe saw last year. We saw a lot of great performances almost like every week. It seemed Manhattan, she crushed it. Griak Invitational, Red Raider. I mean, all these efforts, but I think she's going to be more tapered back this year.
Right. And that the team is still trying to gauge where they're going to be at the end of the season.
Honestly, it doesn't look good. I mean, they're running well, but like as far as getting a regional spot or getting a national spot, looking at the New York teams, I don't know if they have enough. Shen,
it's always a tough
Saratoga Springs. Yeah. I mean, I just feel like there's teams right now that might be a little bit better than them.
Yeah. I think they are pushing things back further than most teams are, maybe because they're trying to develop some of these athletes. Even very recently posted a photo, on social of the team out on like a team hike on like a weekend where normal people are racing. So I think that this team, is looking further down the line. I agree that this is gonna be a long shot. But I'm interested too, just seeing how late they're kind of coming in, whether they maybe haven't run their full squad yet or have something more in the tank, and just to see how this develops. I mean, she still talks about it too. Like the team is still there. They think they have enough that she's not ready to completely give up on them, which I think a lot of people probably respect about her, how she is. 100%. They're not going to win a state championship, but she's still very committed to that team. And so I think there's something, just the way that I think she's still there and the team is still together, that we haven't quite seen the full North Rockland team yet. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of work for them to try to be in contention in November.
Yeah. And I mean, if she does pull the trigger for Foot Locker, I think the one thing that she has left to maybe do is break Amber Trotter's record at this point.
Yeah.
Right? That's the highest speed rated race ever. I mean, fastest course record at Balboa Park, I think. Foot Locker Nationals. So we might get an answer for that sooner rather than later, but we'll stay on top of that. Moving ahead.
Can I jump in here?
Go ahead.
I was shocked and angered and slighted when I looked at the top 5 before the show here to see that we left off Bowdoin and my guys out there in the Northeast, arguably one of the deepest races of the weekend. You had 5 ranked teams on the guy side racing out at Bowdoin.
Two separate races, but
varsity one too.
Yeah.
And what I thought was CBA's coming out party. They look at the speed ratings. Their top 4 are nearly as good as any top 4 in the country right now. I mean, they came in ranked number 18th in the Flow 50. They won the merge with the help of a transfer that came from Jesuit in Oregon. They went 16:35 with their team average, which is their fastest team average since 2014, when CBA had a 16:29 and went on to finish 2 points outside the top 10 at Nationals. And this team, you beat LaSalle in the merge, who is on the bubble, but LaSalle finished ahead of Haydenfield, who is up in ranked number 20th. Corning was right behind them. They're ranked 24th. And then you had Xavier, who ranked 19th, way back from Corning. So you had this huge clash. But for me, seeing CBA, they had a nice tight pack, the best average since a team that nearly finished top 10 at NXN. I think CBA is being slept on right now. Of course, the history of this program you can't be questioned, but they haven't been the CBA of old over the last couple of years. They've had some down years, but I think CBA is back.
They've been in nationals 8 straight years, but in terms of the last national title, I think was 11. And I have a fun fact for you.
Let's do it.
I talked to McCafferty yesterday. I'm going to do a story on CBA, but he thinks they're going to be national ready. He thinks they could have a chance to win nationals this year. I agree with you 100%. They have some of the deepest. They have one of the deepest squads in their program history this year, and the addition of, I think his name's Shaw Powell from Jesuit Portland Jesuit is going to be huge for them. He was two at Bowdoin. So I think CBA could move up in the rankings for sure.
They've got to find a 5th right now, but top 4 were literally almost as good as anyone. I mean, 2 guys in the 180s, the other 2 were 177. This is and going this early in the season, this team is legit, and this CBA team, I think, could bring that program back to where that they've been, where they're a constant podium contender type team, not just we made it to NXN out of a weak region kind of team, but a team that's like making waves nationally and being looked at as a team. Oh shoot, we got to keep an eye on them when we see them at the end of the year.
For sure. CBA is going to be one to watch.
Yeah.
As we mentioned earlier when we started the show, huge weekend, unbelievable amount of meets. Before we get to that, Parker, hey, what's going on? How you doing? We got anything going on social?
Nope. So please make some comments on Facebook and Twitter. I am looking out for them, and if you have anything juicy to say, I will be shooting them to the guys over at the table. So
awesome.
Comment it up, please.
All right. Meet previews this weekend. Take any meet you want. We got Desert Twilight. We got Roy Griak, McQuaid. I'll talk about Griak. We got a bunch of them. Anything that you guys want to talk about exclusive or specifically?
Can we get it in more than 5 words this time?
Yeah, of course. Have at it.
I'm really looking forward to McQuaid. We got to see a couple of New York teams at Bowdoin Park this weekend, but I think a lot of the New York teams are really going to have their big coming out party this weekend at McQuaid. Kyle, the New York webmaster, told me Liverpool versus Gen girls is going to be good. Corning versus Burnt Hills boys this year is going to be good too. Obviously, Burnt Hills has an amazing squad. Corning, we saw this weekend, not as strong as maybe we thought. But also Parker Stokes from Maine Enville High School. He's going to make his big coming out race. He raced last weekend at a smaller meet in Oswego, looking to run this weekend at McQuaid. We'll see which race he ends up in. They always have a million races at McQuaid. It's one of my favorite races. I raced there in high school. It's just down the road from where I grew up. Awesome race. Can't wait to see what happens. Brooke Ruber will be there as well on the girls' side.
Dana Hills.
Thank you. Dana Hills is coming out.
That boys race. I mean, Shannon Liverpool for sure. Dana Hills from California.
Dana Hills, going to New York.
I found out last year on my workout trip. They take a trip each year somewhere out of state, somewhere pretty big.
That's pretty out of state.
Last year they went to Hawaii. This year they're obviously going to New York and McQuaid. I forgot that Kyle told me that. Yeah, that's a big thing, especially because Dana Hills has looked stronger the past couple meets. Like the first meet, they didn't look so great at Mount Carmel.
Yeah.
Talking with Great Oak, he said, Doug Souls, he said that Dana Hills always has their big coming out at their home meet, which they ran pretty well at and won. So definitely a team to watch there. That's a matchup. It's a nice, finally, East Coast, West Coast rival, which we don't get to see a whole lot because most of the time they just stick to their respective coasts. So that'll be awesome.
Yeah, I think it's really exciting. Perfect weather. It's supposed to be 50s and sunny on Saturday.
Beautiful
so couldn't ask for better cross-country weather out there in Rochester. Best swag meet in the history of cross-country.
Oh, yeah, dude.
The
shirts. Yeah, you get these.
Yeah, you can't. They just have the best gear.
No.
Everything, man. They got the best swag lineup.
Well, what I like is if you're top 15, is it, I think?
50.
Top 50? You get the shirts? Top 50, you get
top
medals.
10 get shirts.
Top 10 get these
top
dope
100
shirts.
Get ribbons.
They're white shirts with yellow and black lettering that say like McQuaid Invitational, and they're the same shirts
Super old school,
years and years. They're like old school. They got the black like cuffs.
Nice.
I'll have to wear mine next week.
Okay.
Yeah, you missed your chance.
Dang, I know. I missed my chance. I'll have to wear it next week.
You had one
it's in
job,
my drawer somewhere.
Brian.
Yeah.
One job.
It's actually in my drawer somewhere. It's pretty awesome though. They're really cool shirts.
Yeah, I think that boys matchup is one we're all looking at. Corning, they beat more ranked teams this weekend, maybe, but not as well as we've seen. They weren't quite able to hang, with CBA and where they're at. So to bounce back against Burnt Hills, which is a preview of a team to obviously see at the regionals, and then Dana Hills as well. And this is huge, I think, for all three of those teams when we look at potential wild card situation. Because I think all three of those teams
they're gonna be in
that mix,
on the bubble
especially
in the mix.
like Corning.
And Dana Hills even.
Dana Hills and Corning. I more so. I said because Burnt Hills is certainly up there in New York, I think, with FM right now. But so for Corning to get a win against either of those teams would be huge. Once we go on, and Corning for sure is a team that's looking at anywhere from they're not at FM's level right now, but at probably somewhere between second and fourth at that New York regional. And when the wild card conversations start coming up, they beat ranked teams already this weekend, which is important. Now to come back and get another win against, especially an out-of-state team like Dana Hills. If Dana Hills goes along and does big things in California, this is a really key race for these Corning guys to come back. Because if you want that wild card bid to be, really justified, these are the kind of races you got to win at.
I'm gonna bring out Griak right now.
Yeah.
Griak's gonna be live on Flow Track. It's a very, very good meet that brings some of the best teams from that Midwest region. On the girls in particular, it is going to be remarkably strong. Cotter is going to be there with the Pings, Minneapolis Washburn with Emily Covert, Math and Science Academy with Tierney Wolfgram, Farmington, Naperville North, top 5 team on the girls' side from Illinois. Wayzata is going to be their top 5 team. St. Michael Albertville, Olaf North from Kansas, Sun Prairie had state champion team from Wisconsin, and Yorkville from Illinois. So on the girls' side, that is a remarkable combination of talent that's going to be racing at Les Bolstad at the University of Minnesota. On the boys' side, we have some good teams as well. Middleton, in particular, of Wisconsin, is looking to do some great things, win a state title, get back to NXN. They're going to be racing against Dowling and Edina, St. Thomas Aquinas from Kansas, and a couple teams. Mounds Views from Minnesota is pretty good too. So this race always is a bit of a mix. Sometimes it's hot, sometimes it's good temperature, but it's a rolling course. It breaks you at times. It's going to be really impressive, and it's going to be live on flow track. So thoughts on the girls' race in particular, because we have so much talent.
Yeah, it's not a fast course. We've seen that year after year. It's going to be really tough, especially depending on the conditions you see out there. I'm excited to get back there this year to be able to watch it in person, and I think it's the team battle for me is what I'm most excited for, seeing all of those programs that are coming out there for it. Griak always lives up to the hype, but I think it's a really great atmosphere, and being able to see how those teams are going to play out gives us a great indication of what we're going to see later on in the season, being able to, because this is the last super big meet for a lot of these programs here, so it's the last chance to make a statement, and especially you always get that Midwest contingent coming out trying to upset these Minnesota teams on their home course, so I think it'll be really interesting.
Yeah, I think on the girls' side too, you look at the race last year, that was Emily Covert
took the win, right?
Coming out party. Yeah. She took over from Grace Ping, who took that out early. But I think Grace Ping is back to what she was, and I think she's really ready to run well against Covert. And then you got Tierney as well. Tierney's run extremely well at the beginning of the season.
She's run quite a few weekends now, though. No?
Well,
no. That was her second race.
This past weekend was her second race.
She's looking to run this run.
And the only reason she did that is because that meet typically falls on Griak weekend, and she wanted to run this weekend. So she's going to run 2 straight races. But I think Wolfgram is really, really ready to race.
She's a strong runner.
Well, yeah. And I just think that matchup with the 3 best Minnesota girls, and can't forget about Anna Fensky as well, it's going to be unbelievable.
Yeah. And Anna Fensky's teammate, right? Lauren Peterson could also be up there in the mix.
Yeah.
So and on the boys' side with Dowling Catholic coming up, that's another shot at them to see Edina and see how they match up. It should be really interesting.
It's a regional preview with those 3 teams, which are more than likely going to be the top
in the mix.
Top boys teams in the region are pretty much all here. Could have huge
implications down the line if there's somebody on that line for a wild card. It's like, well, they won Griak back then and they finished 3rd. It's
Edina.
There's one of your answers.
Edina at this point in the season has run probably the best of any team that's been there. But I think Middletown is the team to watch. I believe they were either 4th or 5th or 6th last year at Griak, but they were happy with that performance. This year, it's going to be different. They're going to want to win this meet. They had a guy who went to Woodbridge to run, finished in the 30s somewhere, but now he's going to be back here, and I think Middletown is one of those teams that
their full squad on the line.
They're as good as they've ever been. So I think Middletown's wanting to capitalize on everything this year. So Griak is a good.
And I think a wild card is Wayzata. On the boys side.
We haven't seen them race any big races.
They haven't really come out. I think for Minnesota teams, Griak being a week later has kind of messed with the schedules a little bit too, and how maybe they usually enter in the season. But this is not the Wayzata of old. They haven't shown their cards yet, so I think we have no idea what we're gonna see. Is this gonna be? They're going to be in the top 5, or they're going to they could win. This is a team. I don't know. I think it'll be really interesting too. This will really give us a view of, is this a top 25 national ranked team or not?
Yeah.
2 more notes to keep in mind. Minnesota's MileSplit editor Mark Rice wants to kind of made note of Acer Iverson, who really hasn't raced a lot this year, but Acer is probably one of the guys that's one of the most talented in that state, and he's going to try to win this race. So watch out for Acer Iverson in the boys' gold race. And then we also have to watch out for Mounds View, Minnesota, who's a team that's kind of on the rise. So they're one of the teams that could produce a pretty good performance overall at Griak. So watch out for that team as well. Let's try something new this week. Pick'ems. We haven't ever done pick'ems.
Okay.
But let's do one pick'em athlete that you most believe could have a big performance this weekend.
I'm going with Yorkville girls. Okay. Yorkville is going to go in, and they're going to win big in Griak. I think this team has a lot of depth. They were missing one of their top 5 in their last race that they had. So I think that this team's going to come in maybe when the eyes are on Wayzata and Naperville North, and Yorkville is going to be the team to take this race.
Okay.
I got Cole Sprout. He's going to be going down at Desert Twilight. Huge meet. There's lots of great competition there. I know we didn't get to cover it in our meets preview, but he's going to be racing against Cruz Culpepper, Sean Harrison, Cole Sprout. I think for me right now, I think Cole Sprout's looking to really challenge this course, and I think if he's fully healthy, I know he's kind of battling some things earlier on in the season. I think he's run very well. He's been kind of circling this date on his calendar as one of the big meets he wants to show out at. He ran at Liberty Bell, not in one of the bigger races, trying to save himself for this meet in particular. It is on that NXN Southwest Regional course, so he's going to get a nice preview of that, where he did very well at the NXN region meet last year. So I think Cole Sprout's going to have another big race this year at that meet.
All right. I'm going to go with Bradley Peliquin of Gig Harbor. He's been a guy that has been great in that region for a long time, but he's going to go up against Daniel Matan, who is ready to sort of race hard, and Joe Wascom. Those 3 guys are returning from last year. They were 5, 7, and 8. But I think Bradley Peliquin takes this win at Nike Portland Twilight Invitational. So I think Bradley's going to have a big weekend. So those are our 3 pick'ems for this weekend. Let's see if they pay out.
I can't believe just how big a weekend this is. With I forgot you had Nike Portland too. Everywhere in the country, it seems like there's a big meet happening. Doesn't matter where you go, you'll find a big meet.
Yeah. Do you want to move on to our Pizza Rolls winner of the week? Last week, Caitlin Hart of the 4 nominees ended up getting the most votes today on Twitter. So Caitlin, if you're watching, we'll give you a hat, a T-shirt. I don't know if you want cold or warm pizza rolls sent to you via mail.
By the time they get there, they'll be warm.
But
Somebody doesn't get pizza rolls.
or
really upset.
they'll be lukewarm, so they won't be frozen, but they won't be hot to eat.
We need the picture too.
They'll just be disgusting.
All right, but let's get to our nominees of the week this week. I'll start first. Tristan Merchant of Anchorage Christian in Alaska. 1 week before the state championships, he won the regional championship 15-46-10. Alaska never gets any pub. I'm going to give Tristan some pub. My Pizza Rolls winner of the week. Who you guys got?
I'm going with CBA because
you're big on teams.
Hey,
You're big on teams.
One of the most impressive
man.
team performance last week was CBA, and I want to see you have to buy 150 pizza rolls.
I'm not buying that many pizza rolls.
CBA, if you guys
Get that
win,
Sam's Club or
you
Costco
get, I know
membership.
they have a big squad that can pull out the votes. We will make sure that Corey is going to send you all pizza
You get
rolls.
a third of the roll.
No.
You
Gotta take out a Costco membership just to go buy pizza rolls for CBA.
Who's your Pizza Roll winner of the week?
I'm going with the team too. I'm going with Boise Senior High girls.
Gosh.
That's a huge upset. I think when you do that, and I had this choice before 2 seconds ago. I think they had a huge upset. Just talking to them, I think their energy is electric. I think they're ready to go on and do big things. And they did it on a course where they're gonna have to prove themselves later on down the road too. So I think they had a big statement here this weekend, which is we're gonna see ripple through till later in the season.
Parker, who you got?
I am going to choose London Colbrath from Texas. So since she's from Texas, she actually might be a plausible pizza roll winner. We could maybe send her pizza rolls if we could do
CBA
overnight
is
shipping.
legit.
I feel
True.
like.
This is
Come on
true.
now.
Yeah,
This is true.
so very possible, but that's not the reason that I'm choosing her. I am choosing London because she placed 6th at the Chili Pepper Festival in Arkansas in the women's college race, and she ran a 17:06. I just think it's super impressive that she had the guts to make the jump, and I mean, she would have won by over a minute in the high school varsity girls race. So she's like, hey, I'm just going to move up to the college girls race, and it's cool. That's gutsy. It can be a little scary, I think, going into something unknown like that, and she killed it. So
I doubt London was scared at all. That girl's a killer.
she's
That
cool.
girl
We
is-
have a pretty good Instagram rapport back and forth. She sends me cool videos, so me and
okay.
London are buds.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, let's stick with Instagram. Do we have any throwdowns? Do we have any questions coming our way this week?
We do. We got a few good ones. I
man.
thought this one was interesting. Is there any possible chance you would see Tori Gaitan beating Claudia Lane ever in a race?
How sick is Claudia Lane when this race is happening? That's the question.
I don't know.
I didn't think about that for a second. Yeah,
Claudia opened with a 17:59 at 3 miles. Tori went 16:06 at
Yeah.
Woodbridge on a fast course.
I think So
at this current juncture, if they were to race,
I'd take Tuohy all
I
the
would
way.
have to take
I'd
Tuohy.
take Tuohy.
But
At this point in the season, but if we're talking hypotheticals here,
Yeah.
Claudia Lane at her best, Tuohy Gaetan at her best, I'm taking Claudia Lane, Foot Locker 2-time national champion.
yeah, I mean,
Hand-
I just
hand
don't.
over fist
I
every day,
think
I'm sorry.
Claudia opened at 1750, but I don't necessarily
I don't
think
think
that was
that's
like
the whole
a race.
tank. Yeah, but-
that wasn't like.
But also,
Yeah.
I still think after, again, being on the line, the finish line at Bob Firman, I think Tuohy Gaetan still has more in the tank as well. I think she came across smiling, laughing, and she turned around and looked back and was like, oh, hey, Ariana,
Yeah.
what's up? Like, no big deal. So that'd be hands down a great race. At this point in the season, I still think Claudia Lane at her best, though. What do you got? You've been silent.
No chance.
No chance? Claudia Lane all the way for Travis. What do you got, Parker?
Fair. Next question from Ryan Shoemaker. Do you think that Great Oak is closer to Loudoun Valley this year than last year on the boys' side?
No,
Obviously.
I think FM is closer to Loudoun Valley.
it's not the question,
That's
Travis.
not the question.
That's not the
yeah,
question.
the question was Great
don't
Oak
answer
closer to Loudoun
questions.
Valley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. For sure.
I think
they
they're
are.
definitely closer. I think that 1-5 split has closed down a lot, and I right now I don't think any team is safe. And I know Loudoun Valley is very good. Personally, it's tough. There's a very strong contingent of strong, solid front runners, and there's a pack of guys that whoever has the best race, in my opinion, is going to go.
I disagree.
their
I
way.
think Loudoun's in a league of their own. I mean, it's depth
I think
versus
they're
depth,
strong.
but whose
It's
depth is
depth
better
ver-
than the other
oh.
person's depth? And
Loudoun Valley has great
Loudoun
depth,
runs at
but also
5Ks.
Great Oak. If you anybody's depth, if you look at their full depth chart, but the only thing is you can only run 7 runners on a day. So that's the biggest thing. Is like I love when people talk about depth. I think it's great to have team depth. Don't get me wrong, because you can slot in people when you need to. But you can only run 7 runners on the course.
But you think it conditionally,
Conditionally,
whether
that's not what
depth,
I'm arguing, yeah.
everything. I
There's
think
a lot of
Loudoun
things
Valley.
that play into effect. Yeah.
Okay, this was a weird question, but I'm going to say it anyway. Can Brian say black bug bit a big black bear 5 times fast?
No,
No,
move on.
I'm not saying that.
What we
Come
got?
on.
I can't. Black bug. What
He,
was it
he
again?
forgot the rest of it.
Black
Black bug-
bug bit a big black bear.
Black bug bit a big black bear. Black bug bit a big black bear. I did it twice.
All right.
Next question.
Yeah,
You got one more?
we got one more.
Parker,
we're
who
done.
submitted
Yeah,
that
it's
one?
hard. Do you want to try it?
Some weirdo named Travis Miller Flo submitted
Oh
that.
my gosh, you did that? Of course you would do that to me. I think you should say it. Go ahead.
My favorite was that you couldn't get it the first 2
Black
words
bug
slow the
bit
first time.
a black bear. Black bug bit a black
You got one
bear.
more question,
Black bug bit
Parker?
a black
How
bear.
fast will
Black
Katelyn
bug.
Tuohy run this season?
That is a great question.
Let's just end on that because
That's a great question.
it's Tuohy Nation.
Tuohy's going to win NXN.
How
in the
fast
boys
does
race.
Katelyn Tuohy run this year, knowing that her effort, all-out effort, is coming in 2 weeks at Ocean Shores in New Jersey, and then probably Nike, NXR New York, and then NXN. NXN is a
What?
hard
You're saying
course.
she's going to run her fastest at all the her?
No, she only has a
saying-
few races that
But
she's
she's
going
gonna
to
run
put
very fast.
much of her effort toward. She went 16:44 in tough conditions at NXN last year. She's faster than that this year. She went 17:01 at NXR New York last year at Bowdoin. I don't know if she improves a minute
So
over.
you're trying to look at courses and see where
Yeah,
she is this year compared to last year.
She,
The mind of Corey Mall. What's he thinking?
I
Did she
think
break 16?
I think she,
I think if she gets the right
God.
course and the
I
right
think
day,
she-
clearly. I mean, she ran
Yeah.
16:06, like not far
her
off.
best is 15:37 indoors, and she's probably more fit this year than
Yeah.
she was last year.
I mean, easily. It'd have to be the right course, though.
Yeah.
That's the thing. And the right day. Again, if you have conditions, like that's the problem. Like not problem, but a great thing and problem with cross country is it's so hard. Conditions, course, day, heat, weather. It
Yeah.
all plays an impact on what time you're gonna run.
Yeah,
So-
I say yes. I say 15:58 on the right day. 15:58.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say sub 16. I
Yeah.
think that's definitely within her
Yeah.
realm of possibilities and wheelhouse.
All right, well, to be determined, but we'll find out. We have a big weekend, so stay tuned for all the coverage on MileSplit.com. And we will be back next Tuesday for another show of MileSplit Live. If you have any questions, make sure to submit them on Instagram
Please
or
do,
on
so he's not
Twitter.
the only one giving questions, because I can't. No more of that.
Yeah.
No more of that, Parker.
Thank you for watching. For Travis Miller and Brian Dybel, I'm Corey Mall. We'll see you next week.